fact, on behalf of all of our board, we're very, very pleased with what you have shared with us over this past week, and then some. We are going to wrap up our last and resume our last presentations today. So at this time, as we begin the Budget and Finance Committee meeting, we'd like to start off with a roll call, please. Pohai.
Trustee Ahuna excuse. Trustee Akaka.
Bill.
Trustee Akina.
Aloha mai kako.
Trustee Galuteria. Trustee Kahele. Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Trustee Kahele. Vice Chair Waihe'e.
Present.
And Chair Lapa.
Present.
Okay, we have 6.
Mahalo, Pohai. At this time, I'd like to quickly announce my trustee staff. Trustee A, Pohai Ryan, and Secretary Summer Source. To my right is my Vice Chair, John Waihe'e. Thank you, John. Also like to acknowledge all of the bot staff for assisting our team in operations, for the incredible work you've done on all the lunches that they have to run out to go get and bring in and set it up so we have a fabulous lunch for all of us. And at the same time, also big mahalo to our administrative staff who've worked so hard on their presentations for this year's Biennium Budget briefings. So at this time, I'd like to call upon our CEO. She's here. Good morning. At this time, first of all, it is 9:09 as we begin this morning's Budget and Finance Committee briefings for our Biennium Fiscal 2026-2027. And as a friendly reminder to everyone, for trustees especially, as a reminder, please turn on your red light, speak into the mic. And as well as if you're finished, mute yourself. And if you're on Zoom, basically the same thing. Our people here need to record your videos of the recording of this meeting. So please keep in mind of speaking into your mic. As for public testimonies, the following rules apply so that we are all respectful of everyone wanting to participate in today's briefings. Public testimony should be limited to matters listed only on the meeting agenda and will occur prior to any listed items in conclusion or vote. If you begin to address any other issues not on today's meeting, I will call you out of order and direct you to limit your testimony to items listed on the agenda. Our testifiers' mics will be unmuted when it is your turn to testify. If you're not audible, you will be muted and the next testifier will be called. Oral testimony will be limited to 5 minutes. You will have a 4-minute, 30-second note or a bell, or we're going to just say wrap it up, right? Because you're coming on to your 5-minute testimony. Your mic will be automatically muted once you've completed your oral testimony or if your allotted time for testimony expires. Please log off when you're finished. Otherwise, our staff will help you do that. At this time, Pohai, I'd like to ask if there's any testifiers.
Yes, we have 2 that have graciously come today. We have Puakea Nogomeyer and also
We'll have them come up.
Kau'i Sai Durawa.
Come up to the front.
Ulu.
Yeah, get them done. We will have our testifiers go first. And then we'll continue on with our presentation from our administrative staff.
Yep.
Thank you so much for joining us. Aloha.
Yeah, I'll go over there.
When you're ready, I'm ready.
Okay, go ahead. You may proceed.
I would introduce, I'm Puakea Nogomeyer, and you might notice I'm not a beneficiary of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, but I've been in Hawaiian language longer than OHA has been in existence. And I'm here today actually to invite and ask OHA to be a collaborator into the future. And we're not looking for a particular budget item. It'll affect your budget, but it's more about pieces. let me explain what we're up to. If you're not familiar with our work, I'm with Oahu, which was established in 2003, but it actually predates that. I came into Hawaiian language and it's been, by the way, I want to thank Hailama, Summer, and Trustee Souza for having us have these minutes. But I came into Hawaiian language 50 years ago, basically, and have been honored and blessed to be a part of Hawaiian language revitalization, which has been a global success.
Wow.
It's an incredible success story when we lose a language every week on the globe. And Hawaiian didn't disappear. And that was an exciting piece, and it's kept me entertained for half a century. But about 25 years into it, as part of the revitalization, we actually published, we started to reach for the Hawaiian language archive to fulfill what we needed for classrooms. This is called Ke Kumoapuni. And we reached into the newspapers and we pulled out Kamakau's work that was published as ruling chiefs and as the people of old and whatnot. And we published that for the Hawaiian language audience. And in doing that, that's the first time we really dove deeply into what is called the Hawaiian Language Archive and recognized a window on another world, literally. The Hawaiian society is unique in the world for the dynamism of the kingdom era, of the motivation to document their world. And the literacy, you know about the literacy, but the fact that they recognize the diminishing population, the pressures of change and of depopulation, documenting things for the future was really critical, because anytime a intelligent person dying, a knowledgeable person dying, was like a library burning down. So the pressure was on to get it in writing, and they did. It's an incredible archive that is unparalleled in the Western world. But when Hawaii, and you can talk the politics of change, when Hawaii was drawn into an English language world, 97% of everything that the Hawaiians had written for themselves, among themselves, and their descendants was left behind. Everything that you, your parents, and your grandparents learned was from 3% of that body of stuff. We recognize this. And we're playing around in a window on a world that is not accessible to most of today. And the huge success of the language revitalization happened without that body of material. So all of the fluency that's flying around, and there's lots of us that are really comfortable in Hawaiian language, when they dive into that body of material, they're unfamiliar with the language, the vocab, and all of the references. Because the world that we have, and it's not that the history that we know and the culture that's documented in English is incorrect. It's just that it's fractional. So long story short, so we did a couple of these, and that introduced us to this incredible material. So in 2003, I ended up, and this I'm going to leave with you. I wrote a dissertation that measured that. It's this big, and we were handed this much. And that's an impossible gap to bridge. So we created a Waiaulu. Almost on the day this was approved, we created a Waiaulu and tried to take modern fluent speakers and get them familiar with that body. Now that's been going on. We've been doing it for 22 years. The first thing I think we put out was Hi'iaka. We'll leave that with you. We did it in Hawaiian and English because what we do fosters Hawaiian revitalization.
Feel like we're salesmen.
Yeah. And the last one out is this one. And the incredible difference, is ruling chiefs gave all the data of this. It was sliced, diced, and reorganized in a way that doesn't give the story. Kamakau was educating his nation in the 1860s, fearful that they would lose it. And his entire history debunks the whole notion of colonialization. Hawaiians were in charge and they dealt with all the things that were coming at them. They adopted, they adapted, and they ran their ship. And that story is in the original, but it's not in the English. And so we really see a need that, Hawaiians and Hawaii is handicapped by this 3% of vision. We're actually looking at the world through a crack, and there's just more available. It doesn't change the picture, but it illuminates the entirety of it. We have figured out a system of mentorship that takes our bright, young, fluent speakers and gets them familiar with this body of material, gets them familiar with bringing it across the bridge. Our only mission is to bridge Hawaiian knowledge from the past to the present. That's our entire mission. But how we do that is we train these young people. We've had 20 in the course of 20 years. I'm 30 seconds out, I'm all good. We've had 20, we have 11 of them are with us and have been with us for 10, 12 years. And they want to go on. We're looking at a 5-year committed funding to let our engine run full tilt. Then we can still do, we've always done projects for OHA, but to be able to run the engine full tilt, we are proposing basically a revolution to make us create a cadre of doers, a generation of people who can do what we're doing right now and continue to do that. That's our mission. It's actually all described in a brochure in front of you. We want to ask and invite OHA. Yeah, it looks like this. Do read it, but to be a collaborator, we're going to find the funding. We need $10 million for 5 years, 9 million, I think, but we'll get it. But we'd like to get part of it, and whether it's just a committed little piece or a committed big piece, we'd like OHA in on this. So that's why I'm here. Learn about it. If you have questions, we're really accessible.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate your bringing this to our attention, especially with those books. I'm dying to see what those books that you have there. They look beautiful. I
This
can
is
imagine the
dessert,
content
by the
of it. Which one?
All of these, but this one is like dessert. This is
Okay,
so
that's it.
delicious.
I love my dessert first, so.
It's a banquet. I'll say.
Mahalo nui. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And yes, we're going to definitely consider all of that for a budget as we wrap up today's briefings with our department heads. By the way, are there any questions before they go ahead? Kai Kahili.
Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah.
No, we're working right now on our biennium budget for 26, 27. We could plan for beyond 27, but we really can only appropriate for the next 2 years. So if we were to support in some way, shape, or form, what would be a target goal for OHA for the next biennium, the next 2 years?
I'd love to see a commitment to the 5 years that we want to do it, whether you can or not. But whatever OHA can put in, we're going to get 1.8 million per year. So any piece of that, you want to offer 500,000 per year for 2 years with the hope of renewal, we'd take it. But anything that shows your commitment to the immediate, you're limited by your own biennium budget. But intellectually, you're not limited to a 5-year commitment. We're actually asking you to join a revolution. So be in and
Don't say
do whatever
we
it takes. Yeah. But no, it's whatever is a solid commitment. We want, because as we move forward, we will find this funding. I'm really pretty certain. I want to be able to say, OHA is with us on this. So that's how much we're asking.
Okay.
He's a little relentless. The very last page in here helps break it down. So you can look at this and see the different pillar projects and what it would take to run 1 year. So that's as a guide.
Thank you so much for that. All right, I want to just call on, you're welcome, call on trustee Galateri has a question, and then Kauai, you'll begin
Okay.
after. Go ahead, trustee.
Well,
just to put everything in context, I think it's important for the board to understand what Waiolu means, how you got there, and what's it's meant to express. And let's begin at the beginning. I mean, just how did you come to this? That's the question.
When we saw what's there, Dwayne Steele, who you might have known, read my dissertation overnight and came and said, "What are you doing about it? It's not about language, it's about knowledge." He said 95% of the Hawaiians can't read the books we're making. And 99.9% of the general public can't. And they need this knowledge. We've got to make this happen. And so we have to move forward and bring that knowledge into English and continue to support the Hawaiian and the English speaking audience to get the knowledge. Awaiaulu means to bind together in unity. So to sort of integrate and articulate and connect. So that's how it was all started out.
I see.
That's what we're after.
Follow up, please. What OHA can do is to connect, you're probably already connected, but to the other agencies of the government. We can be the pathway because, I mean, we spoke about it this past week. As an example, Department of Transportation. Why isn't all the signage in Hawaiian? There's a reason. The Hawaiian language didn't just show up at the airports as the first language you hear when you get off the plane. That was intentional. So the plan is, how do we intentionally move the culture throughout every division of the current bureaucracy? Is there a plan to do that already?
Actually,
Kokia?
That's an ongoing effort. What I want to point out is the culture we have in hand is a fraction of what's really there. How do we rebuild a foundation of cultural confidence that as you do those extensions, you know where to reach? Otherwise, that's why they all fumble. Nobody knows, how do you find all the words for the judiciary or for the build the foundation, build the body of people who can do it, and you've got your answers. Otherwise, you've got a lot of noise. And I don't mean to overrun my time.
I think that, if a lot of things happen in statute. So if there is a need for legislation, this is the body that can carry it through to policy, at least help.
And my thought is, give this engine 5 years of running, and you'll have a revolutionary force that would impact the state.
Okay, mahalo. Making sure.
Aloha no. Mahalo nui for all that you folks are doing for our people, for our culture, and for our future, and for those that have come before us. Mahalo. I wanted to know, do you have multiple locations, or is there a specific place in which you do your work?
We're scattered across the island chain. So we called them trainees. Now we're calling them translation fellows on Oahu, Molokai, Maui, and Hawaii. We don't have anybody right now in Kauai. If we get the fund, or Lanai, yeah. But if we get the engine up to full tilt, we'll have somebody on every island. And we're pretty much virtual at this point. We used to be centered at my house in Kalihi Valley.
Okay.
We still are. That's where our physical.
That's where our office is. Yeah, yeah. But bodies all over.
Okay. And I also wanted to ask who thus far is committed to this particular.
Well, we are just sort of starting this out. And so we're in discussion with Hawaii Community Foundation. We're going to be doing presentations. We're in discussion with the Mellon Foundation, which is a great source. I'm sort of the driving force to say, I don't want any more federal funds. We've received ANA and NHEP, and I would like Hawaii and Hawaii's supporters, because Mellon is one of those, to be the ones proud of what we do. And I want to see Hawaii invested in this effort and driving this effort. So we're with the Abigail Koananakoa Foundation. We're in discussion there, HCF and Mellon right now. We're going to extend this out. We're going to find the funds. This year we'll find the funds. We have the funding to get us through the year. But by next year, I need a commitment, not only
year.
to make the ship run, but to keep our fires on. Our model is that we don't bring in bodies like OHA hires people. We have professionals out in the field. They commit to 10 extra hours a week to work with us. That's a really useful model, because then what we do here makes our product, makes their skill set, and improves right where they are. So they're all in the classrooms, they're professors, some of them are mountain keepers. There's a real mix. It's a really impressive mix of the brightest young Hawaiians.
Oh, mahalo. I'm hoping that we can have a near future presentation so that they can share further in some of the breadth of what you all are doing.
Welcome to do that. Yeah, we
Mahalo.
would set that up. We don't intend to fill up your 5 minute. I'm way over my 5 minutes.
Okay. Aloha, aloha. Thank you for having us, first of all, and to Hailama, Summer, Kale, and Keone for inviting us to attend. My name is Kauisai Dudwa. I am the Programs Director of Awaiaulu. I'm going to start with telling you a story. When I was in the 8th grade at New Valley Intermediate, one of the classes that was offered was Hawaiian history. And I loved it. It was my favorite class. Little Japanese teacher, Mrs. Fujishige. I absolutely loved this class. Every week I was so excited to attend the class. Till at the very end, she said, but I asked, well, what happened? Right? She tells the stories of Kamehameha, the first time you ever get to hear about the battles and the people and the names. So I asked, what happened? And she said, Hawaiians gave it all away for a nail. One nail. At that time, I'm 12 years old, 13 years old. I was angry. But I didn't have any tools. I had nothing to argue, make this point, right? But I knew she was wrong because I knew my grandmother. I knew my parents. I knew my kupuna. And I know she's not right. Hawaiian history was written without the Hawaiian voice. We are not part of the story. At least that's what we thought. In 2002, I became the director of the Hawaiian Language Newspaper Project Ho'olapai, and continue to do it through today with the Bishop Museum. My understanding of Hawaiian history before that was pretty good. I knew it quite well. When I became head of the newspaper project, the history that I thought I knew was now filled with a breadth, a depth, and a color that you can't imagine. And it still unfolds today, right? Whenever I want to find something, I don't have to guess. I jump right into Papakilo. We've worked with color since the beginning of Papakilo database. We bought all the newspapers over. The whole collection is what Awaiaulu helped put online. We put the David Forbes collection online. We put the Outside of Hawaii resources online. We put the Washington Place Foundation. All of these efforts we've partnered with OHA since the beginning, because access to Hawaiian knowledge is important. But it's not just access, because we thought Hawaiian history wasn't written by us. This started printing in the 1860s, right? This whole repository, Hawaiian language newspapers run for 114 years, from 1834 to 1948, of our people telling their story as it happened, the good, the bad, the ugly. But it's all here. We don't have to wonder. What this will do, if I knew this when I was 13 years old, right? I would have been sitting there so confident in knowing who I am, what my history is, and what we can represent. I'm dangerous now because I know it, right? But it's not enough that I know it. I raised my children. I have 12 children. They all went to immersion. They've all, doing good, amazing things in the world. But all of them grew up learning history and language, because language without history is not enough. History without language is empty. You need the two, because you can learn something in the language, but if you don't have the historical context, you will misunderstand what that's talking about, right? So these are the two things that are important. And it kind of seems important that the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, that this becomes one of your missions, because it's important for all of us, for every Hawaiian individually and as an organization and as a lahui, to do the work that we're doing. And it's not just my children. I do it selfishly for my children. And now I have 22 grandchildren. So I'm selfish in this whole movement. But you should want this for your children and your grandchildren as well. Today we've spent years creating these huge things and begging people we put it out there. We kept putting it out. Take it, share it, share it, share it. But you know what? This is a big book. Honestly, how many of you are going to pick this up and read it? Hailam, you know? Oh, yeah, pa. But what we've done in the last couple of years, we used to make jewelry. We used to make pearls and we just put it out there for everybody to take. In the last 5-10 years, we started pulling that pearls back in and we started making jewelry. We created an online platform called Keep Up Educator Resources, which you can see in there, where we create collections, specific collections. We scour the Hawaiian language resources, we translate them, we scour the English, put them together, we build lessons, we make mele, we put games, we put books, because it's about reaching it out. The teachers now can come in. We have about 4,000 regular users that visit our site and mostly educators. They come in, they grab it, they take it right into the classroom. These are the kind of things OHA should be working on. We just created from this, we created a graphic novel. It's coming out. It's in print right now. We take the story of Kamehameha and Kivala'o, and we made a graphic novel. Solomon Enos is our artist. That's going to publish by this summer. So we can trick young people into knowing their history. They're going to think it's a brand new epic that somebody made up. Well, no, it's what Kamakaua was happened, right? So these are just some of the things that we're doing. We are on a 5-year trajectory to accomplish this. There's a lot of reasons why 5 years is set for us. The last 3 years, we've had 2 large federal grants. We had lots of money. We went from a $350,000 a year budget to about a 1.2 budget in the last 3 years. But we were able to do it. It was really hard to spend that money. I mean, I found it difficult because I am Pake by nature. But what it was able to do, and my blood, but what it was able to do is we could do amazing things. What we've accomplished in the last 3 years has been really amazing. We have like 12, 13 songs that were haku'd under our projects. You know, it's just, we have amazing things. So it kind of scared us. But now that we've done that, we understand what's possible if money and budget weren't our barrier. Yeah. So we will hobble together if you can't. But we're here to ask if you can. That's what we're here for. So mahalo. That's
Mahalo nui. Any other questions go ahead, Trustee Souza. Oh, your mic.
Right on, mahalo. Well, Wokea, Kaui, thank you very much for that meeting the other day. And I thought you weren't going to waste your time if you come over here. This is a great opportunity, I think, for this organization. You know, it's nothing new. You guys have been working at this for a long time. Aside from all your beautiful mele puakea that you write and that we get to sing. So, and you have real deliverables right in front of you, right? And there's also collaboration with the Papakilo for years with Kale and the research and evaluation paya that we're going to hear from next, as far as the budget is concerned. I think for trustees, just to know, I think we talked about briefly that this may be coming out of Hailama's budget potentially. We may be looking at that to amend before that June 2nd. So Hailama's willing to give up 2 positions as far as his personnel. No, I'm sorry, I'm just joking. We'll take it from there. No, but mahalo. I look forward to collaborating with you folks. However it is, we don't know that budget yet, but we do want to definitely, I can speak for myself. I definitely want to support this effort. So mahalo. Thank you.
I think we all are in with that for sure. But you bring a treasure to us, and obviously we want to see that continue in your programs. Anyone else that I know someone, Kai, please, with a question.
So back to the original request, is there a way to either dedicate one of those trainees to OHA as the way we support and fund the program, so we can both address our internal capacity issues and what you're trying to achieve?
There's any number of ways that you can dedicate the funds. Really, what we're looking for is a committed block that just says OHA is in. That's what, and that gives us a tool as we move forward. How you work out the dollars on it can be anything, you know, and it can be committed to a particular, if you'll read the brochure, you can commit it to a particular pillar project, to an individual, to a number of individuals, whatever way that works best. But really is all we need is to know that you're in. And that's what we want to walk forward with, is to say, OHA is with us on this. And a funny side note, when we launched into doing translation, I was reviled. My own beloved teacher, Larry Kimura, said, please don't make everybody learn Hawaiian to do this. And we realized it's too big for that. You know, it's just, and it's not sexy. Anyway, in there, he's turned around 180 degrees. He allowed me to put in a quote that says, thank goodness for the work of Awaiolu to train a cadre to make this available to our own generation and what's coming. He has totally turned around. That's what we're on. We're making a generation. The products that we're able to produce is great stuff. It's the people that are going to serve this generation and the generations ahead. And that's why the drive is now. I'm able to mentor in a way that my own mentees will not be able to. Let's make the best use of that. The same with Kauai. We are able to really give our all right now. If we get this launched in 5 years, I'm going to be a little feeble. Yeah. I'm not irreplaceable, but there's a real need for it right now. The 12 that are still, or 11 that are 10 and 12 years with us already, and they want to go for another 5, because the fire will never say it's had enough. They've found the fire, and they're going to get as much as they can. They will be the resources for your grandchildren. That's the amazing part of it.
So the answer to that question
Oh,
is.
she's
No.
been doing this for me for years. Yeah.
Oh,
So Mike, yeah,
Yeah.
there it is.
the real answer to that question is, of course, it's possible. But our 5-year commitment is to do intensive training. So we hone them. Some of our teams say that being in Awaiolu is like sharpening a stone. They are the blade and we are the stone, right? It's about getting all the training we can get into them so that they are resources for our community. So our whole goal is really to ramp up our intensive training in research, in language, in all the things that we do, so that they can be resources for our community. So that's a possible, but that's our goal is continue intensive training while producing products for our community. It's not like we're just going to sitting alone for 5 years. It's going to be, banging out things, but training is our goal in our team.
But we're asking to put the full engine in motion, which allows us to bring on new trainees. If you want to fund particular new trainees, that's an avenue, whatever avenue you choose. Mostly I want to walk away eventually to say OHA's with us on this in whatever way you want.
Thank you so much. All right, mahalo for being here. Truly appreciate that. We are so honored that Puakea, who is a living treasure and guardian of Olela Hawaii, yes, you guys can applaud, and Kauai as well. Mahalo for all you do and taking the time to testify today. And also just want to acknowledge that our former trustee and the late Oswald Stender is the founding president. Look at that. I didn't know that. That is
You
awesome.
have some remarkable background on this. We will leave these for your library.
Thank you. Mahalo.
These I have to take back because we're reprinting them in English.
Well, terrific. Okay, thank you again. At this time that we'd like to move on, I would like to call to the front
Just
there,
wait.
our CEO, Kapuana Stacy Ferreira, as she will introduce her staff today.
Good morning, Chair,
Good
Vice
morning.
Chair, trustees. Joining us online and in person, we have our Chief Operating Officer, Kehal Pu'u, Interim Corporation Counsel, Everett Ota, Senior Director of Hawaiian Cultural Affairs, Hailamo Farden, Director of Advocacy, Le'ena Alale, Director of Research and Evaluation, Carla Hosteller. We have our Senior IT Systems Engineer and Administrator, Kevin Cha. Systems Administrator, Kale Hannes, Research Manager, Keith Gutierrez, and IT Assistant, Aska Rolls.
Mahalo, Stacy. I truly appreciate that. At this time, we'd like to continue from yesterday's budget briefings. And let's have our first presenter for this morning to come up front and begin your presentation. Mahalo. From our research and evaluation. Aloha. Yep. Oops. Sorry. Got it.
Aloha, Chair Lafa.
Aloha.
Please.
Good
Thank you
morning.
so much for having us. So I am Carla Hostetter, Director of Research and Evaluation. And then as Stacy mentioned, I also have with me my two colleagues, Keith Gutierrez, Research Manager, and Kale Hannes, who's just saying goodbye. And they'll be available to answer questions after the presentation on their proposals as well. So yeah. So again, thank you so much for this opportunity to share the proposed research and evaluation budget with you. Sorry if I'm nervous, but I'm going to do my best to get through it.
Relax.
Okay.
We don't bite.
Thank you. Okay, so, yep, okay, perfect. So as you know, Arnie's purpose is longstanding and is in direct alignment with OHA's mandate. It includes gathering, compiling, analyzing, and reporting on data to inform OHA's decision-making and support communities and beneficiaries. So this includes both our population level research and our OHA evaluation as requested. Our research is used in advocacy, of course, and then in program development to arm them with the best information possible to support our communities. Additionally, as we just heard, our research includes digital archiving of Native Hawaiian cultural and historical collections in Papakilo, and then mapping of Native Hawaiian land, culture, and history in our Kipuka database. Additionally, we compile Native Hawaiian physical, sociological, and psychological economic data in our Native Hawaiian data book. So this work directly fulfills OHA's Chapter 10 mandate 1065 to conduct, encourage, and maintain research related to Native Hawaiians and Hawaiians, and 1061A, the compilation of basic demographic information on Native Hawaiians and Hawaiians, and B, the identification again of physical, sociological, psychological, and economic needs of Native Hawaiians and Hawaiians in support of our strategic plan. And of course, all of our research is in direct alignment with our MIMO directions. So throughout this proposed budget, what you're going to see is reflected our agency's dedication to becoming an employer of choice through supporting staff professional development. And then you're going to see a significant rebuilding of our Kipuka, Papakilo, and Native Hawaiian data book infrastructure so that it's fully functional and up to date. You'll also see continued collaborations with our sister trust agencies to advance original research on Native Hawaiian well-being and then also to protect Native Hawaiian data sovereignty. Yep, this slide. Okay, we have a small but mighty team you'll see here with us today, which includes one program that's overseen by our manager, Keith, and is staffed by our three analysts, including Shireen Heliniak, Elise Dela Cruz Talbert, and Kristen Anderson. We also have our one research systems administrator for Papakilo, which is Kale. And then most recently, we hired a shared admin assistant, Nanea Lowe. And then we currently have 4 vacancies that we hope to fill in fiscal 26, if not sooner. So I will point out to you that for this budget presentation, our PIA is split between the program budget and then the director's budget. So the director's budget is going to include those 3 research systems.
Is that your team right there?
Yes, this is my team right here.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Okay, next slide, please. Oh, I can see it. Yep. Okay, so as for our goals and objectives for 26 and 27, we hope to support OHA as the employer of choice through additional professional development trainings and education so that we ensure continuous quality improvement. And then we also ensure that OHA is adequately represented in premier local and national professional organizations. You'll see from our budget that we have a major focus on research and data infrastructure. And their improvements, specifically rebuilding and repairing our 3 research systems, as well as updating our outdated survey data collection and analysis software. Next slide. In terms of services aligned with Chapter 10, we can hope to continue to preserve the cultural and historical archive collections through digitization, and then continue to encourage original research on Native Hawaiian well-being, continue to support Native Hawaiian data sovereignty and intellectual property rights, as well as updating our Native Hawaiian demographic data and continuing to track and research our MIMO indicators.
Your computer in the boardroom turned off, then are you gonna stay in here?
It is off. It's turned off.
Oh, it is?
Put the video off.
Okay.
You do that. Just leave the video off.
Got it? Okay, perfect. No. Where was I? MIMO indicators, and then of course supporting agency-wide initiatives as were requested. Okay, so the next 4 slides here, I'm going to go through quickly so you can just see the alignment of our different goals with the MIMO and then with our major projects and how we intend to measure their success. But on this first slide, I just want to highlight for you under employer of choice, our professional development activities, our evaluation association memberships, and then next slide. Yep, next slide. Sorry. And then, And then for infrastructure improvements, I just wanted to highlight the repairs and maintenance for 2 of our 3 research systems, and then the upgrade in our survey data collection platform, and an upgrade in our SAS licenses. That's our statistical software. Next slide. For our transformation services, I would just like to highlight the continued acquisition of collections for Papakilo, and then our collaborations with our sister trust agencies on the Imipono Wellbeing Survey and the Kukulu Kumuhana Native Hawaiian Wellbeing Framework. And of course, our continued work on Native Hawaiian data sovereignty and intellectual property rights. Next slide. Just to continue with our transformational services on this slide, I just wanted to highlight for you the Native Hawaiian Data Book platform necessary upgrades and updates. Next slide. So now we're going to get into the overview of the director's budget, which again, that includes our 3 research systems right under the director's budget. The proposal is for 1.4 million in fiscal 26 and 1.3 in fiscal 27. And you'll see the majority of that is going to be in our personnel and contracts. So I'm going to go through each category in detail, but I did wanted to highlight for you that I was informed by Grace, our budget analyst, that the split in personnel is actually incorrect between the director and the program. So you'll see, it might look a little funny. You might see it like a higher salary in the budget category, but that is some of our analysts as well. And then it's going to be manually corrected in the second budget that I think you're getting on June 2nd. Yeah, so you'll see that correction there. Yeah, and next slide. Just to talk a little bit about our PAIA budget. So I've just indicated like a small portion of the work that R&E does here, but I did want to take a minute to focus on our current and longstanding vacancies. So you can rest assured we've been hard at work to hire for these positions. And then unfortunately, due to the impact of some federal changes in how data and research is being valued to make informed decisions, we've actually seen an increase in our applications for our research analyst positions. So that is the great news and a benefit to us. Unfortunately, as of this week, we had no qualified applicants for our GIS systems administrator position, which has been vacant for about 3 years now. Next slide. So for contracts, yep, the next largest category is in contracts. What you'll see here is the funds to rebuild our research systems infrastructure. And that includes $200,000 just for our servers maintenance, and then small updates to keep up to date with our Papakilo functionality. You'll also see $250 to update and upgrade our Kipuka GIS platform, which has fallen into disrepair with broken links and out-of-date technology as we experience that 3-year gap in the expertise in our GIS system. Similarly, you're going to see $150 to upgrade and update our Native Hawaiian data book, which is currently functioning on an out-of-date system and has not been updated since the retirement of our last staff member in 2023, and then the elimination of the position last year. So likewise, you'll see in our equipment budget, the $40,000 to upgrade our agency's platform as it's currently on an out-of-date system as well. Additionally, in contracts, you're going to find $300,000, and that's for the archives across the state to enable them to preserve their valuable collections through digitization, and then to enable OHA to provide access to those records through Papakilo. Finally, you'll also see OHA's contribution of $50,000 to our annual statewide Imipono Wellbeing Survey. So that's a collaboration between Kamehameha Schools, Liliuokalani Trust, the Queen's Health Systems, and Papakilo. So all agencies collaborate on that survey, on one statewide survey, so that we're really maximizing the impact of Native Hawaiian dollars across all agencies, so that each fund doesn't have to carry out a separate survey. And then it also reduces the survey burden on our beneficiaries, so each of our beneficiaries isn't completing a survey for each agency. We also use this survey as a source of many of our MIMO outcome indicators. Next slide. So in the program budget, I would just highlight just 500,000 for reference materials as we might need them, and then the 900,000 for our training fees that covers the director and then our 2 systems administrator positions for trainings and conferences such as the Native Hawaiian Evaluation Conference or the Association for Tribal Archives, Libraries, and Museums Conference, and other trainings or conferences as they might arise. We're actually often honored to receive invitations to represent OHA research on different panels at different conferences. So most recently, Keith was able to speak at a national conference on Native Hawaiian data sovereignty, and then at a state conference for homeless service providers. And next month, we'll be speaking at Papa'ololakahi's Native Hawaiian Health and Wellbeing Summit. Additionally, in our program budget, you'll see our professional association membership dues, printing costs, and then some printing costs if public reports are needed to be printed. And then for Papakilo, our newspapers, bless you, our newspapers.com subscription, sorry. In the program budget, I'd also like to highlight our co-hosting of the annual Kukulu Kumuhana Native Hawaiian Wellbeing Framework convening. Again, that's a shared project with Kamehameha Schools, Liliuokalani Trust, the Queen's Health System, Consuelo Foundation, American Foundation, Pacific American Foundation, and Papa'ololakahi. So again, we implement cost sharing for the event to maximize the impact of the trust dollars. And I also just wanted to highlight that this budget will be decreased, as I understand that our honorariums will be centralized. So you'll see that move out, I believe, in the next iteration. And finally, in event costs, you'll see funds for our newly initiated data sovereignty and intellectual property rights workshops, which Kale will be leading for us. The first event will be held at OHA on June 19th. And again, those will be co-hosted with other trust agencies and with the University of Hawaii. And again, this will be reduced as those honorariums are moved out and centralized. Okay, next slide. The next slide will show the travel costs for the director and the 2 research systems administrators. So in state, you'll find one trip per year to our Hilo office, 4 trips per year to our neighbor islands for Papakilo and Kipuka staff to provide training on island for our beneficiaries there. And then you also find 1 trip to the CNHA convention in fiscal 27, depending on where it will be held. For out of state, you're going to find 1 proposed trip for our Papakilo Systems Administrator to attend the CNHA convention on the continent. So we would like to propose a Papakilo and genealogy workshop at this convening to increase access for Native Hawaiians residing on the continent. And then there's also 1 trip annually for a national data sovereignty or archive trip, and then 1 trip annually for the American Evaluation Association conference. Next slide. So to move to our smaller R&E program budget, which is overseen by our manager, Keith, the proposal is for about $170,000 in fiscal 26 and then $604 in fiscal 27. But that large increase, again, is due to that error in the division and the personnel budget, which will be corrected. However, Grace has let me know that the total 2.3 should be accurate for the entire PIA. Okay, next slide. So I've already spoken to our personnel and the director's budget. So here I just wanted to highlight for you just the small parking fees for staff travel to offsite meetings and trainings. Next slide. And for equipment, again, we're requesting to upgrade our statistical software as we're asked by IT to discontinue the use of our current open source. So we need to upgrade that for $11,000. Additionally, you'll see $1,000 for program reference materials, and then you'll also see our training fees coming in at $12,000 for the research and the 6 analysts. We're including all 6 to be hired. For such conferences, again, is the Hawaii Pacific Evaluation Association. And then we're trying to do rotating attendance at larger conferences, such as the American Evaluation Association Conference and the Indigenous Data Sovereignty Conference. and then some funds for other trainings as they arise or as we're requested to present. Under travel, you're going to see 39,000, and that's for all 7 staff members. In state, we have 5 trips per year for our Hilo staff to attend OHA events in Honolulu, 1 trip to Hilo, and then 1 trip to the Native Hawaiian Convention, again, depending on where it will be held in that year. Out of state, you'll see 1 proposed trip for our manager to attend CNHA, 1 trip for the American Evaluation Association, 1 trip for the Indigenous Data Sovereignty Conference, 1 trip for 1 staff to the biannual Culturally Relevant Evaluation and Assessment Conference. Next slide. So in summary, RNE's proposed 26-27 budget just reflects the agency's dedication to becoming an employer of choice through supporting staff professional development, and then significantly rebuilding our Papakilo, Kipuka, and the Native Hawaiian data book infrastructure to be fully functional and up to date, and to contribute with our sister trust agencies. Thank you.
That's okay. All right. Are you done?
That's it. Any
Okay,
questions?
great. So now we're going to open up to questions from our Board of Trustees. Anyone want to start? None for you. All right, Trustee Akina.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Carla, for the presentation. I appreciate that. Sorry about the concert music, but you obviously fit in your time. First question is, what's the engagement of your research department and strategy and implementation?
Yes.
Where in particular do you overlap?
Mhm.
And where might you actually be duplicating things that could be combined?
At this point, I don't know if there's any duplication. I do know that they are proposing for the data dashboard. And so my understanding of the data dashboard is that it will be able to interact with all of our data systems across the agency to create one comprehensive platform. And then the other way that we collaborate really closely with our S&I is in developing evaluation of the programs that they're going to be creating in the upcoming biennium.
Now, when you talk about the data platform, I'm thinking about the Native Hawaiian data book.
Correct.
And looking at the budget, it's very different from the S&I budget for the platform. Do you think you're requesting enough funding for the upgrading of the website for the Native Hawaiian data book? Well, I was looking at it and it looked like something that my 3rd grader could actually put together, or at least when she was back in 3rd grade.
So that, yes.
No insult
No.
intended. I'm sure you're aware of how basic it looks.
Yes, so that is what we're asking for the budget to upgrade. It's a little bit different than the interactive dashboard that S&I is proposing. So I believe their dashboard will be, pulling from multiple systems, be interactive. The Native Hawaiian data book, we're looking to update that website that you referenced, and then just continue to have the data book uploaded there for folks to download the Excel files. We could, with more funding, we could also make that interactive.
I know historically that the legislature envisioned a hard copy book
Mhm.
in the origin of the Native Hawaiian data book.
We did used to provide a
But-
hard copy of the Native Hawaiian data book, yes, but it was expensive in printing costs. So I believe a few years ago we moved to online only.
Right.
If it's up, it's to the board direction if they want to include funds for printing a
But-
hard copy.
But what I'm thinking is that that's obviously the direction of the future for it, to be online. And is there any vision for its upgrade or any vision of its integration with the dashboard of S&I?
So as part of the contract, we did want to have whoever the contractor is to consult with different users. We have done an evaluation of the data book previously, and what we've heard time and time again is that although it might seem not as high tech, a lot of researchers actually prefer to be able to download the Excel files so that they can work with them analyzing the data themselves, as opposed to a dashboard where you're interacting, which might be more friendly for a non-research audience.
I would just encourage as much discussion about integration with what
Mhm.
S&I is doing.
Yes.
And also from a technology point of view, because it would seem more optimal that we would pursue unified technological approaches toward the development of both products.
Yes, exactly. And I think if we are able to, excuse me, fund both projects, if we're able to get the data book up to date, that should be able to interface more appropriately with the new dashboard as well, right? So right now we have one out-of-date platform. If we upgrade this, it'll be able to actually interact with the new dashboard.
And a quick question about your vacancies,
Yes.
especially data analysts. Are these long-term vacancies that have been hard to fill, or do these represent new work that you want to do?
These are longstanding vacancies, the analyst position, yeah, all four are.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to pay off of his comment regarding that vacancy. Are you looking to change it up or something else that would attract someone that's been sitting there for how many years and no takers? What's going on with that?
So I believe in my testimony previously, we are currently searching for a candidate who has really high technical expertise, right, in the GIS mapping, like all of our systems administrators. And then we also need someone who has the Hawaiian historical background as well in order to fill. So it's just a really rare combination of skills. And for that rarity, there's a competitive rate, which we aren't matching at this time. And then we have had 2 bites where we have had somebody interested in the position. Unfortunately, they withdrew due to the lack of availability of telework. Perhaps in these kind of positions, most of the work is online, so they might have more of that expectation that, you know, remote work would be an option.
Thank you. On page 134, line 7278, this is in regards to your $150,000 budget for the GIS platform for fixes, upgrades, updates, and so forth. But is there an opportunity to reduce the ask in FY27 of $100,000 if you have already upgraded everything in 26?
What's that? Oh, do you want to? Holly can speak to it too,
Sure.
but I would just add,
Page 134. 7278.
for the Kipuka database, right? If we were able to fill that position, would we be able to reduce the ask? Is that the question?
Well, yeah, well, as basically it's referring to the amount that was asked for in 26.
Mm-hmm.
And regarding the GIS platform, the fixes and updates, upgrades, then there's an opportunity. So if you're asking for the 150,000 and you're able to fix all of that, then you're asking for another 100,000 in 27.
I see.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry. So actually it's one project. That would be one contract. Unfortunately, we were trying to not front load all of the asks into fiscal 26. So we just split the budget. It would be like a $250 project that we just split over 2 years. So we weren't front loading.
Can you explain more on that? What that entails?
So there's different components to what the Kipuka database needs. We just finished an RFP that identified a vendor that is going to assess the current needs. Because our technology or our staff technology expertise is nothing without a GIS person, we had to outsource that. As a result of the assessment that is going to take about 6 to 8 months to complete, that will dictate how we move forward in upgrading not only the GIS software, but in addition to that, the Kipuka internet website platform as well. I think we are now 8 iterations out of date with the ArcGIS software program as a result of not being able to fulfill that GIS position on staff.
Is that the one you said it's telework?
It's the
They're
competitive
asking for-
salary and the telework.
Okay.
And it's also just a rare skill set. So you have to pay a competitive
Top of
rate for that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Trustees, any other questions while he's here? Go ahead, Trustee Akaka.
Mahalo. Mahalo for all that you folks are doing.
Oh,
It
wow.
goes hand in hand with what was shared earlier. Regarding the mapping of our native Hawaiian land, can you folks speak more on that and what the kuleana is there and what yet needs to be done and what has been done recently?
Is this for the seeded lands work or for the Kipuka database?
All of the above.
Okay, so maybe you can talk about the interaction between the two. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for your question, trustee. We've been able to move forward, not only right now, but we have a history of investing in mapping of land tenure within Hawaii, as well as making that information available to our beneficiaries and for OHA internal use. That was being satisfied by the work of previously Zach Smith, for those of you who remember, who was our GIS specialist. But after the reorg that ended up losing him, that position has been, unaddressed. And therefore, our progress in moving forward with that has been, haven't been able to move forward. As a result of that, we entered into, we put out an RFP and we got a contractor with SWCA Environmental Associates, which is located on the mainland. However, they have fine representation here in Hawaii, and their office has Native Hawaiians and people who actually know a lot more than we do on land tenure. And through that work, and GIS, through their work in that, which was about the past year, right? And a contract for $223,000 approximately, they've been able to create an assessment of all the work that we've done in the past, that Zach had done in the past, 10 years of work that OHA has invested in the past in developing a ceded lands inventory. And now, as a result of that assessment, we now know how to move forward. They provided, they said, this is the information that you guys have. These are ways that we can update these research methodologies. These are ways that we can update how this information is presented within the Kipuka database, which is the intention or intended home of that information for not only OHA to be able to access, but our general public and beneficiaries, of course, and other state agencies as well. There's been collaborations with the state GIS department that to stay up on the current methodologies and technology that is constantly advancing within technology. And I would say that's kind of where we're at now, right? SWCA was able to I'm sorry. SWCA was able to not only assess, but put forward a plan to address taking care of the historic land tenure of the ceded lands for the next 4 or 5 years. Zach had already completed Ni'ihau, Kauai, Molokai, and Lanai. So phase 2, our intention was to have phase 2 address updating those processes, updating how that information is presented in the system. And then stage 3 would be in the next fiscal year and tackle Oahu. Oahu is by far the most difficult in determining land tenure, how these lands were handed over to the government, how they were sold, how they were, designated as other lands. And we really feel that the creation of this foundational inventory, which is actually going to highlight a couple of years, actually 4 or 5 years. The intention was to identify lands in 1848, which was the start of the Mahele, 1855, which was the completion of Mahele claims, 1893, which is the overthrow, 1895, which is Act 26, that repeals the 1865 Act by Kamehameha IV that prohibited the sale of lands and essentially confiscates Crown and government lands and provides them to the provisional government. And then, of course, the last one would be the 1959, which would be the Admissions Act. I think this development, personally, I think the development of this historical endeavor to create this inventory can actually run parallel and support current efforts with the Public Land Trust Working Group and their refinement, their assessment of the Public Land Trust Information System, or the PLTIS.
On that note, with all that you're sharing with us, what would be your highest priority? Because we want to see you folks operate at the highest level, naturally, in regards to the research you folks are doing that's going to have a profound effect on OHA in the years to come, because naturally we are finding many things out that we've been behind in so many areas, and we need to catch up.
Yeah.
So what would be the wish list that you would be able to have so that you can operate at the highest level? What would that be about?
For us, I think the highest level priority would be the appropriate staffing structure to oversee our research data systems. So right now, we just have two, um, unfortunately, lowerly compensated systems administrators. If we had three analysts, then we could have one for each system. And then if we had a manager, we could have cross-training and then succession planning as well. So that would be the ideal state, I think, for the oversight of those systems. And then our other priority would be to be able to continue the seeded land project that Kali had just discussed. Anything you want to add?
Okay, thank you very much for that. Trustee Akina?
Thank you. I think Trustee Souza had a question. I've had my chance.
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. I just want to pick up on Chair's question with regard to the status of technology and the vision for technology in your department. As you know, of course, AI is transforming the way demographic research is being done. Everything from machine learning to natural language, computer vision, predictive analytics, and so forth. It's a massively fast transformation, but I'm looking at a budget that is pretty small, 1.3 per year for upgrading the data book. And what is the vision you have for the level of technology and the personnel that we need in order to be state of art if you take the lid off completely?
We did have to make some budget cuts prior to, so I would say for these projects are kind of bare bones to get us up to date. I think it would be, you know, another significant investment, probably double what you see in the budget to actually bring us to the state of the art cutting edge. So in the meantime, you will see that we have funds in the training and professional development, so that we can at least, our staff can stay aware of what are the upcoming needs, how AI, you know, with AI, you want to proceed with caution and make sure that we find out as much as possible on how it can be best implemented to serve our beneficiaries and our communities. So for now, that's the bare bone budget to get us up to current is what you'll see. And then there would be a significant investment, you know, to bring us past that. But, oh.
Yeah, trustees, I'm wondering if we can change the metaphor here from catching up to be at bare bones. Even if you accomplish that, we'll be behind. And your department is so crucial to other functions, especially after hearing strategy and implementation. Strategy and implementation is going to depend upon research and evaluation for the content with which it works. And so beyond that as well, throughout the organization, I would imagine that your department would set a model for how data is obtained and how it is then used to address everything that we do.
Thank you, Trustee. I appreciate that and your continued support of the work that we do. If I may also just ask if Kale can highlight if he has any priorities or ideals of how the
Thank you.
technology would look.
Thank you for the question, Trustee. I'd be more than happy to take all your money. But the focus remains that we need to, essentially, we need to clean our house. We need to clean our house. We need to build a solid foundation. And that number one includes, as Carla mentioned, getting all of our research systems not only up to date and fully functional, but well staffed as well. I think once we have that solid foundation, we'll be able to really dedicate a lot more focus and interest in some of these very quickly evolving technologies, such as AI, such as indigenous sovereignty, which is something that I've been being pulled into more and more. And I'm starting to realize the magnitude of not only data sovereignty, but data governance as well. And how important it is for us to not only command the narrative, but manage it and own it and take care of it. There's so many different components. And I would really, I appreciate your comments here at the table and look forward to perhaps putting together some proposals with a little bit more thought, because currently this is at the top of our minds. And we've had our opportunity to provide wish lists, but everybody needs money, everybody wants money, and we respect every paya's desire to, and we want to, you know, help and support every paya's needs. But we have our own as well, and we cannot stand down and let other people, you know, just constantly take the focus, because our information, our kuleana to provide data which drives decisions, which drives initiatives, not only for OHA, but for our lahui, is super important.
Okay. Thank you. My closing comment is this. You as a team have done a great job, and I appreciate that. So my comment isn't addressed to you. It's more addressed to my colleagues on the board. This group should not be coming to the board as beggars. We really have to have a vision of technological excellence if we're going to drive everything that we do in our organization. Otherwise, we'll forever be behind. And that is more of a policy issue that we want our various PAYA to be able to respond to. And so that when they create and they dream, they can look at the excellence with which OHA can carry out its mission. Thank you. Thank you for your work.
Okay, Trustee Souza.
Mahalo, Madam Chair. Mahalo, Carla, Kale, for being here. Great presentation. You guys can help me answer the question. What is the distinctive differences, I guess, between the City Lands inventory contract and the Public Land Trust Working Group? If we're referring to scope of work, to your knowledge, I guess.
Yeah, I can take a first stab because we did have that conversation with Everett.
Okay.
So we understood what is the Public Land Trust Working Group focus. So our understanding is that their focus is on looking at the current state inventory, so the current lands held by our state, and then trying to determine the trust status of those lands. So the work that has been ongoing in the research and evaluation PAYA for the past 12, 15 years has been to go back to the Mahele, look at all of the lands, and then track it forward. So it's more of a comprehensive historical long-term view, but I'll let Kale add some detail.
Carla pretty much summed it up. However, you know, if I were to invoke the saying that we all are very familiar with, we need to know where we came from in order to know where we're going. And right now, PLTIS and the Land Trust Working Group, they're dealing with the right now, which is super important, super urgent. But we have a little bit more time to kind of develop the historical background on that establishes how we got here.
So.
And to me, that is the difference between the two. In some ways, people may not be interested in a parcel of land that is marked as conservation or that is only generating $1. But in the future, if that land were to be rezoned into something else or sold at a certain price, you know, that's when a cut in our revenue should come in. And part of establishing that is surveys, actual surveys done on the land. But that is a tremendous amount of money.
Yeah.
So establishing the chain of command or the land tenure history to see how the PLTIS got to where they are now will really help us to assess where their errors are, because there are. We just need to find them. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead. Trustee Akaka.
Mahalo. I feel the work that you folks have done and are doing and will be doing, and especially in regards to AI. AI, my understanding of AI, it's as basic and far to all reaching as it can be. But the information that is provided to whomever is sourcing this information is what is available online, what receives the most amount of visits and so forth. So what always comes to my mind is having the correct and pololate information when it comes to our language, our culture, our history, and that is part of the AI as well. I had mentioned yesterday during SNI's sharings that my hope is that I'll go back to how I came to this thought. When we were going to our site visit last year in Maui to Lahaina, I saw our High Hawaii along the way, and I was asking myself, are these crown and government lands? Are these private lands? And I was thinking in the signage that we have that reference our ahupua'a and historical places throughout the Pai'aina, and I thought, what would that look like if we have our crown and government lands where every part of it has the signage to indicate that. So whomever, whether it's Malihini, it's our Kama'aina, whether it's our Oiwi Kanaka that are saying that they have that information, and that there, whether there be a QR code or some kind of information there to tell people the history of these lands. So they, when theoretically, when you know better, you do better. And I think that's part of the teachings and part of our advocacy that we're constantly doing, explaining why we exist, what we do, why it's so important for us to get the revenues from these lands, and when it comes to our legislature and so forth. So I feel that what you folks are providing to us further equips us in what we have to do legislatively and in sharing whatever we are doing within our community. So I personally would like to see that you folks are equipped as you need to do what you have to do, of course, within our means, but I think we really got to make this a priority, a strong priority for us, because this is our foundation. This is absolutely our foundation. Crown and government lands, that's our foundation. So we really, really have to see how this can best work out. And I would like us to find ways in which we can really search out. I don't know if Zach is still available, but no. Okay. A good contractor? Okay. So I would really like us to prioritize how we can fill the vacancies here. And if anyone knows who would be best to fill that, please let them know of the latest updates that we are evolving into. But any way that in some way that I could kukua as well, and I could talk story with you folks more and how to best equip me as I'm advocating within and outside of our organization, please let me know. Thank you. Mahalo for all that you folks are doing.
Mahalo, Kalei. We have Trustee Galatario.
Hello, Madam Chair. I see we have maybe 4 projects, 4 database, 4 Papakilo. We got, right? How many we got? 3? Okay, so I've been hearing a lot about employer of choice. I'd like for us to be researcher of choice for the people in the Square building. In your estimation, do they rely upon the data that we provide, or do we need a little bit more robust promotion of what we do in terms of research?
I think we have the data that is necessary to inform the policymaking. I think generally that will come through our advocacy team as we arm them with the best data possible. In terms of the policymakers accessing our data specifically, I think maybe with the dashboard that S&I will be implementing, it'll be a little bit more accessible to them. But otherwise, I think it's generally us bringing the data to them to advocate for the positions.
So the data is available
Correct.
to everyone? Or is it?
By and large, yes.
By and large, it's available to everyone. So if the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee wants to access data, he can come to us with no problem.
He can just go to the website.
He just
They
needs
can
to
go
know.
Correct.
So it's a matter of informing the leaders that the data is there.
Correct.
What is your, and perhaps their staff,
Correct, their staff.
more their staff actually,
Mhm.
because the staff does all the work. But I think a very robust promotion of what we have here would be very helpful when people ask, what does OHA do to?
Yeah.
And so, I think working with comms
Yes.
is important to do that. And I'd like to see a campaign.
If I may, perhaps if we are, funded to do the updates that are necessary, perhaps when we get that new website available, that would be a prime opportunity to really collaborate on a big campaign with comms to make sure everyone's aware of the data that is contained in our data book.
Can that happen before the next session? Huh?
They
We'll
will
do
work
our best.
24/7.
Okay, it's election year too. All right. Thank you, Chair.
Claire, you have a question?
I just wanted to state that we did have, I guess you could call it a media campaign in recent years regarding what we were trying to, what we have been advocating legislatively. There were, specifically regarding the Ways and Means and the staff, there was high questioning in terms of just the semantics, gross versus net and so forth. And DLNR has their PLTIS system. However, we feel that it could be more accurate and more intricately provided. It's not thorough, we feel. It is not thorough. Therefore, it's just not accurate. So I think that I agree that in everything that we do, including this, we need to have a media campaign of some sort. We need to share with our people and with those that are interested about what we do, who we are, and why it's so important of what we do. And it just doing that, it helps people understand why we exist and why it's so important for us to continue in the work that we do. But thank you for mentioning the media campaign. There's so much opportunity, and I think that our comms team needs to build better, bigger, stronger as well to have the capacity to share in what we need to do.
Trustee Galataria?
Well
Oh,
done, thank you.
that was one.
Oh,
Okay, my question is for on page 136 regarding rows 7411 through 7415. This is regards to OHA's role with the Kukulu Kumuhana and the annual convening. And I'm noticing almost $23,000 budget request for this particular convening. Could you explain the breakdown of that?
Sure. So it should be in the expense description. Sorry, can you read the number again? Are you looking at
Okay, so
411?
7411, 714, 714, 7415. So we got total of about $23,000. I've just totaled it up because you have 14,000 there
Yes.
at the 7415. And this is obviously all centered around the Kukulu Kumuhana.
So the 7414 is actually, that's separate. That's professional development fees.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's separate. And then correct the other two. The honorarium, the top one, 7411, that will be moved out to a centralized budget for the honorariums. But those are actually honorariums for two events or two types of events. One is the Kukulu Kumuhana Native Hawaiian Wellbeing Framework, and then the other is the Indigenous Data Sovereignty and Intellectual Property Rights Workshops.
And that's intricate to OHA, right?
Correct, yes. So the Kukulu Kumuhana Native Hawaiian Wellbeing Framework is a framework that was developed in 2017 with all of our community partners, a way of looking at collecting Native Hawaiian data and research from a strength-based Native Hawaiian perspective as opposed to a Western framework. And so annually, the partners get together, talk about the good work that we've done on the framework and with the framework. And then the Native Hawaiian Data Sovereignty and Intellectual Property Rights workshops. So those will be multiple workshops, the first one of which will be from this fiscal budget on June 19th here at OHA. Kali, did you want to mention what will be contained in those workshops?
Sure. As I mentioned earlier, Indigenous data sovereignty is a huge thing, as well as data governance. Last July, I believe it was UH, they hosted a meeting or a workshop called No Kako Nakako, for us, by us. And it was just taking those first steps into the realm of data sovereignty and everything that it entails. And since then, there have been smaller trainings, but I tend to be kind of bullheaded sometimes. And once I grab onto something, I'm going to run with it. So using leftover funds from this fiscal year, we're gonna have a second meeting, a follow-up to No Kako Nakako with No Mako Namako. So it's pretty much us exclusive of everyone else,
Right.
right? And in that meeting, we're flying up a facilitator from Aotearoa, who happens to be one of the leading data sovereignty experts, indigenous data sovereignty experts. Don't worry, OHA's not paying for that part.
I was just gonna ask.
Yeah.
It's in the budget.
But in addition to that, we're trying to get in touch with, and I don't want to put her on record as she's committed, but I've reached out to Vicky Holtakamine and her work on the Native Hawaiian Intellectual Property Group as well to become a speaker. And the purpose of this gathering is to it's going to be a little bit more exclusive, where it's going to include only 1 or 2 people from different organizations, but it's to really identify who the key stakeholders are in this movement, identify other organizations and individuals' efforts in this movement and bring them together to align. Whether it's within OHA and the conversations within our PAIA, or whether it's communicating with other people on other islands, there's always going to be walls, and we tend to put horse blinders on and be very focused on what we're doing. So the intent of this meeting is to break down those walls, open up the blinders, and really make everybody aware of what's going on. That way we can plan towards doing something larger at like a CNHA conference, or like any of the homestead conferences, or civic club conferences as well. So these funds not only perpetuate the building off of this next meeting next month, but really helps to support how this information gets out, increasing awareness of everybody's efforts within the realm of data sovereignty.
Go ahead.
Mahalo.
Mahalo.
Thanks, Kali. Just to add one more thing, I think it's particularly important, Native Hawaiian data sovereignty in our current landscape with the federal government. We've seen an attack on our data. And so now more so than ever, it's important for Native Hawaiians to be partnered with each other in the organizations to be able to protect that data.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask about that, if we are collaborating with other agencies.
Correct. Yes. And
Is
so
it-
both of these events are co-hosted events. So OHA will be providing
Okay.
free space, and then other organizations will be paying for different pieces as well, such as the travel.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions,
If I may add
trustees?
one more thing.
Oh, go ahead.
Through my interactions with the data hui, through Keith's interactions on the continent presenting on indigenous data sovereignty, everybody's asking, where's OHA? What is OHA's stance on this? And I would love to see our research and evaluation work with S&I and work with our executive leadership team to formulate a stance, to say this is how we intend to support, this is perhaps create a plan of how we plan to interact with the community in all of this. But everybody's looking to OHA because Kamehameha schools, they're limited to education.
Mhm.
DHHL, they're limited to housing, or, in that sense. We cover everything, which is good and bad. It allows us flexibility, but everybody is looking to us. So I just want to put that out
Well,
there.
I'd like to
the
hear from
board.
Keith, if you don't mind,
Yep.
and explain a bit more
than
about that.
happy.
What we was just playing off of, because you obviously you know more, so I want to hear.
Yeah, no, thanks, trustees. So yeah, as Carla mentioned and Kali shared, the indigenous data sovereignty space has really been emerging in the last couple of years. I think our work here locally has brought us into that that national and international conversation, right? So we had a chance. There's a national network of indigenous data sovereignty, and that's where we presented at last year with our Native Hawaiian Research Week group. And so there's actually, I guess we've learned more recently, there's an alternating national, international. So there's a strong international component as well. And so we see a lot of the actors in that space across the Pacific, right? So New Zealand, Australia, right, and some of the other island nations. And so I think it's a good space for OHA to continue to lean into. Through our work with Research Hui as well and those sister organizations, we're seeing those efforts kind of stand up in these other places. Adoption of Native Hawaiian data sovereignty statements and kind of this ethos and philosophy kind of getting circled back in to the organizations, their focus, their priorities, their funding. And so through, this budget request, we want to continue. And then even, with Kale's efforts and these conversations that are happening, they're starting to centralize, right? And so these convenings and these spaces are, I think, going from emerging and now really getting a command and leaning into it. So yeah, it's a good space. And echoing Kale's statement, we do get questions on OHA, and we are glad to be representing the way we have been, and hope to continue to be able to.
I would love to hear less of where's OHA than anything else, because we hear it all the time from various paiainas, and we need to obviously clean it up so everyone knows where our stance are in a variety of topics. And yes, exactly what you said, we can't be everything to everyone, but it seems like we are. And unfortunately, but we want to also be at the level that we are able to showcase those ideas. And I want to make sure that we all understand, everyone, for all what you folks have done this past week in your presentations. It is crazy the amount of things that you folks do, but also to get us up to par. It is, I can see we're so far behind the 8 ball, it's ridiculous. And it's obviously going to take money. Money to get us to the level of playing field that we need to be, and we haven't been in such a long time, as I'm understanding, just by listening to each of you folks speak and share your mana'o. But thank you so much for that. Any other questions for him? Yes, go ahead, Trustee Souza.
Madam Chair, I guess, Trustee Kahele usually asks this question, but I'm going to come in and ask it. Is there anything, I guess, on your wish list or stuff that did not make the cut that you guys would like to inform this board of? Anything? You obviously heard that this is a very important pile to us and our mission. And so, yeah, I guess if you have any others that's not in here.
Sure, yeah, thank you. Great question. I know Carla mentioned a few of those priorities, right? And Carla echoed that with the infrastructure, the research systems, getting them, up onto, better standing, as well as kind of the question with the ceded lands work that OHA has invested in. I think beyond that, we do want to, of course, fill our vacancies and fill out our team, which, we have seen effort and have been made good progress. We had a series of interviews last week. We're working with HR on finalizing the recommendations for some of those hirings, and are really excited for the group of candidates that we received. So that's been a good progression. As far as maybe like a wish list, yeah, maybe continuing to lean into this Indigenous data sovereignty space, whether that's through attending and presenting at these conferences, hosting these collaborations, or representing OHA in those spaces. Definitely seeing an increase in that activity from last biennium to this one. And what that does is that allows us to showcase these systems, right? So our presentations not only are these presentations not only highlight the collaborations, these frameworks, the application and use of these frameworks in communities by practitioners, by a wide breadth of actors in the Native Hawaiian space, but also, they show that we're there. And so I think with making sure that those are included, we have that. So yeah, I guess maybe more there might help that. Would I guess be the adding to the list that I think we shared.
If I can speak up, so I will share that, Carla, as she shared, they were asked to, cut back and reduce their budget ask when we went through our first 2 rounds of budget. So but given, the direction of the board this week, I think and she's even had to spread things over a couple of years versus having it in just a single fiscal year. But yeah, we would like to get beyond just caught up, right? And so, and I will share, I think this PAIA is a very good model for what collaboration and partnerships looks like. I mean, they're involved with the research hui, there's this Indigenous data sovereignty hui, where we can be a lead and a convener. So we would like to continue to support that. Our databases are very valuable, huge resource. We have agencies. You heard of Waiaulu is part of that collection, but even DHHL taps into that and taps into Kale. So I think what we would like to do is maybe put stuff back, maybe rearrange it, because you folks will have both what we submitted now and then what would come, as part of our revised budget. And then, you folks can take a look at that and make decisions. And yeah, we would like to also include the work, the city that's.
Well, I think it's important that the wish lists that we've all been asking you folks really is what you need more than anything, to cut back and, basically water down your wants. It's not going to get us anywhere. And so glad that we are able to have this briefings this past week because it gives us as the trustees a much clearer view of what we're looking at for our staff to function. And we don't want to just catch up. We need to go past that because we're so far behind, as you know. But I'd like to segue to Kaleakaka. Go ahead.
Mahalo. I keep hearing, which I understand, oh, how can you cut back? How can we whittle this down? But what I'm doing is I'm looking at the root of this in terms of the funding. The root of this is getting the proper funding from the legislature more to the point that we need to be because it's so far in between. So when I'm talking in our communities, I'm giving them a breath of the difference here that we're working with. We're mandated to receive 20%. We're getting close to 3 to 4, maybe 5% of that. So 15.1 to 21.5 to which should, at the very least, whether you want to include inflation or not, 79 million. And we know that is just a fraction of what we should be receiving. I want us to take all of this information and what we're learning and take that to the legislature. This is part of our advocacy, and this is part of what we're to advocate within our communities. Because clearly, we need more to do more here. That is just really what the foundation is going back to here. We're not funded enough. The mission that we have, the strategic plan that is before us, how do we meet that? We need to be equipped with that. So all this that you folks are sharing with us, I would like to see how we can collaborate together and prepare for the next legislative session. And as we continue to go out to the community to really hone in on that messaging. I'm sharing that personally, but having these conversations is furthering this thought process. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Thank you so much. All right. We're on to our next. Are you our next presenter? Oh, you have something. Oh, go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
when you asked what else we need, of course, I got a
Might as well.
list a mile long. Yeah. But I have a track record of results. And so there's a couple of things. Earlier when Oahu was presenting and Kau'i was talking about how they're making, not jewelry, but like, what'd she call them? Like little pieces, like pearls, right? And so now what they were sending out little pearls into the community, and that's, their little, a book here, and it's not just a book, it's more than that. And then now what they're doing is weaving jewelry together with those pearls, right? So earlier Trustee Akaka mentioned about AI. If AI can rely upon these quality pieces of jewelry that are being strung together and put together, and not just whatever is out there on the internet, that would provide a solid foundation that would really show that AI can be put to good use. So I just wanted to add that on. And while at that point, advocate for Oahu in some capacity, we support them. Just a small, they alluded to working with us from the very beginning with Papakilo, but as a result of that collaboration, there are, out of the 2-point-something million records in Papakilo, they account for about 488,000 records, which is basically 10 collections, and it includes not only the newspapers, which is a big bulk of that, but ali'i letter collection as well. Letters that were written between ali'i and also commoners that are all digitized. They also had a hand in connecting us with mission houses as well in some of their collections. Hawaiian National Bibliographies, of course, Institute of Hawaiian Language Research and Translation, some of their collections, and Washington Place's digital scans, digital archives. So I would advocate, if you're asking what do we need, what do we want, Um, in all transparency, we need staff, we need funding, we need staff that is going to apply, qualified staff as a result of competitive salaries. We need funding to bring our research systems up to date so that they can provide that foundation that we all build our house on. And we need to, I'd say, going to what Trustee Akaka was saying about getting our fair share from the legislation or the square building. The square building, we need to establish the seed lands inventory. And we need to support Oahu and their continued work, because their byproduct is AI is going to have a much more accurate reading of who we are as a people. So, thank you.
Mahalo
Mahalo.
for that. Thank you so much. All right, we'd like to move on to our last presenter. And this is our advocacy department. Yay, you guys did great. Woo woo. Anybody need to do restaurant? Do we do recess break? Okay, okay. Okay, you want to keep going? Okay. Bathroom break? Okay. Oh, okay. Think email the updated. She just has updated version right now. I think. Okay, so this is our updated presentation, right? What is the one she just handed out? Is that number? Do I not get one? Oh, this was it? Oh, okay, okay. I thought she had handed out something else. This is it, Kim. Oh. Okay, everybody has their updated presentation for advocacy. All right, go ahead. You may proceed. Good morning.
Good morning. Mahalo for the opportunity to present. I have with me today in the room Kamakana Ferreira and McKenna Woodward, and online Kai Markel, who is our compliance manager, to answer any questions. So if folks don't know, the name of our teams, advocacy is Kapayaku and compliance is Kia'i Kanavai. And I think you're all pretty familiar with the purpose, functions, and responsibilities. Do you want to move to the next slide? But I'm just going to go through it by each of our divisions. For advocacy, we are responsible for advancing new policy, and this is a statutory mandate under HRS Section 10, and we also work on advancing OHA's governance goals under HRS Chapter 10H. Our work cuts across all of our MIMO strategic priorities, and we are also governed by the BOT Policy Manual Advocacy Series 2000, which includes VI, EV Kupuna, ceded land, and culture as priority areas for advocacy as well. Next slide. The work of the compliance division it's similar, but it's complementary. Our advocacy team is the policy making side. We work on new and emerging issues. And then compliance makes sure that the statutes and constitutional protections on the books are actually enforced, and that other agencies abide by and comply with those statutes and constitutional mandates. So it says specifically in HRS Chapter 10 to assess the policies and practices of other agencies. And of course, that's done through reviewing EAs, EISs, consulting on different projects that are undertaken by other agencies. Chapter 60, which is historic preservation review. And again, the work cuts across MIMO strategic priorities, but is focused, in the INA section because one of their priorities is iwi kupuna, but they really are protecting by the range of Native Hawaiian rights, entitlements, and resources. Next slide, please. So, the next slide would be the structure with that chart with all the different rectangles. Am I supposed to be advancing? Sorry, am I supposed to be advancing the slides or? Okay, okay. Sorry, just the structure. There we are. Yeah. So as you can see, we have quite a high number of vacancies. When I came in, there were a high number of vacancies, and the number of vacancies have unfortunately increased due to different reasons. But there I am at the top on overseeing advocacy and compliance. And as you can see, there's 5 vacancies on the advocacy side, and I want to highlight that we are hiring for a new position that is actually an old position. It's the Ocean Policy Manager, but OHA did at one time have an Ocean Policy division that was responsible for implementing our co-trustee responsibilities with respect to Papahanaumokuakea Kea. And we are bringing that back. It's a huge area of responsibility. It actually doesn't show up a lot in the budget because we get separate line funding from NOAA, but our duties with respect to the monument as well as with Ocean is really big, and we have been notably absent by our co-trustees and in other community forums from Ocean policy issues. So this is really important that we are bringing this PIA or this division back, and that position was just posted this past Wednesday. And then also new on the compliance side, and this was a initiative with Stacy that our compliance team agreed was important, is to have compliance advocates on Maui and Kauai. There's a lot of iwi issues that come up, and we want people on the ground who can respond to community concerns in real time, because these are always, when iwi issues come up, they're always urgent. It's always construction, something's going on, there needs to be immediate eyes on the ground. So that's also really great. I have submitted 1 hiring recommendation on the advocacy side so far this week, and I'm trying to finish 2, if not today, early next week. So we're making progress in filling those vacancies. And then, of course, we work with Kehao, who is also involved in our Papahanaumokuakea work. So next slide.
Real quick, just so you guys know, one of those vacancies just became vacant this week. So we did have
correct.
1 staff member who has left OHA. So no, 5, but I just wanted to clarify that one of them is very recent as of this week.
So on the advocacy side, our immediate goals and objectives include increasing the amount of beneficiary engagement that we have in our legislative initiatives, increasing Native Hawaiian voter registration and election participation, and expanding OHA's leadership, as I was just talking about, in the field of ocean policy at the state and federal level. We have specific initiatives that will address each of these priorities, and they show up in the budget. We have legislative empowerment forums to train beneficiaries that we're in the process of planning. We want to do civic engagement campaign. As mentioned, we're building out our ocean policy program, and then aligned with the overall goals of the organization as an employer of choice, really prioritizing our operating policies and procedures and staff training, as this staff is the most significant resource within both advocacy and compliance. And again, this cuts across all of our MIMO priorities, as well as BOT Advocacy Series 2000. So moving on to the next slide, the compliance team, we have also specific priorities that align with the strategic plan to ensure that the island burial councils are staffed. with enough individuals that they can actually do business. They have quorum to do their business, which has been a problem on Molokai. It's been a problem on Kauai. And we really want to provide, just to build our relationship with IBC members, improve implementation of historic review and protections for EV kupuna, and protecting water rights. And the specific initiatives that go with this is we want to have in-person IBC recruitment and training forum so that new members get to meet OHA staff, get an overview from our perspective of the law, the Constitution, which also applies, their role and responsibilities, and what we can do to help them, and also to keep the pipeline flowing so that when IBC openings come up, we're already in touch with community members. I mean, our team has been successful this year in recruiting to fill IBC openings, but they continue to come up, and we want to develop just that pipeline and relationship. And we've had initial discussions with IBC members on neighbor islands who also want to be involved in training the next generation of EV Kia'i. Another specific initiative, this was the resolution that the Board of Trustees approved earlier this year. We're convening a working group to look at OHA taking over certain duties from the State Historic Preservation Division with respect to the burial sites program. Not listed here, it's not, we're not responsible financially in any way, but there's also a coastal erosion working group that, is the same, it's within that same EV protection area of work. Expanding compliance advocate presence at regular IBC meetings. So this is something we can do with our hiring staff on Kauai, Maui, and we already have staff on Hawaii and Island and Oahu, and we want to have a more regular presence. And then we're looking at hiring specialists to investigate specific VI issues that affect DHHL beneficiaries. So would go to meeting our MIMO goal to have more homesteaders, on the land and able to farm. So again, cross-cutting. The next slide, I'm honestly not the best at flowcharts, so this is kind of repetitive, so I'm going to skip most of it. Although I will mention how we measure success, because I think there's hard data points, and then there's also just with advocacy, there's feedback. So the first one, including legislative engagement, I have to say, when you already look at numbers, we were pretty successful in getting testimony this session. I didn't see many other groups getting as much public testimony as we did, but for whatever reason, Hawaiians are held to a higher standard, and I get the feedback from legislators that for whatever reason, they didn't perceive us as as engaged with beneficiaries as we could be, even though we were successful in the numbers. So there's a hard data point of let's get more Hawaiians involved in the legislative process. And also there's more like the soft data point of the perception by legislators that we are in close relationship and communication with our beneficiaries so that they, see our voice as truly representative. The IBCs, whether they're functioning, that's a pretty easy one to measure. Increase in Native Hawaiian voter participation over time would be easy to measure. And then the fourth one is another like softer one, but it's going to the development of our staff and really having them develop expertise in different subject matter areas so that when we go into session, we already have existing relationships with other community advocates and legislators and kind of seen as thought partners on advocacy issues that match up with MIMO and our existing Series 2000 priorities. So that's really something that is off-session work that we need to be doing, building our relationships. And then when we go into session, we'll have, more of a lay of the land from allied organizations. So this is a high-level summary. We can, I'm sure you've all reviewed it. It might be helpful just to move ahead to the breakout, but these are the costs in the major areas. As you can see, as I mentioned, staff is really our main investment area. Contracts are related. We can talk a little bit more about that, basically to gap filling, things that we need help with our staff covering. And then those legislative empowerment and IBC training forums would be the main cost under programs. So that is the policy side, and this includes, if you looked closely at the budget, this would be my chief advocate budget, which is 6,100, along with the public policy advocate, which is our group which is 6,500. So this is a total for 6,100 and 6,500 program account number. And then the next slide, compliance, is 6,410. So, oh, and just as a point of comparison, the 6,100, 6,500, that reflects in this slide personnel 10 staff positions. And then when we move over to compliance, this is the next slide. This is just 5 staff positions, and it doesn't include my budget. It just is 6,410 if you're looking at the program account codes. But similarly, our staff is our most important resources. We have some contracts to fill, some gaps, kind of if we are unable to fill the Maui and Kauai positions for some of those costs I'll talk about. And then again, programs being really focused on empowering the IBCs and looking at the overall functioning of the burial sites program. So moving on to the next slide. I don't know if you have any questions or if you want me to go through this. It's
Just go ahead through it and then
Sure.
we'll save our questions for after.
Okay, it's the things I've already highlighted. Our personnel on this side, we're filling vacancies that we have quite a number of on the policy team. Overhead costs are really small. They're directed towards research costs and travel costs. Just the nature of the work we do. Sometimes, I mean, we go, it sounds really old fashioned, but like sometimes we have to go to the Hawaii law library and do hard copies. Or if we were to need to go to like, I'm blanking, Bureau of Conveyances, if we're doing some kind of research on land, you might want to get a map that costs money. So they're minor costs, but they're important, our overhead costs. The contracts on this side is a facilitator for the burial sites working group. And there's a number of reasons that, this is a pretty big kuleana we're taking on of looking at whether OHA is going to actually take on certain responsibilities from the State Historic Preservation Division. It's going to be a lot of work. It's a large working group. It's up to 15 people because there's representatives from each of the IBCs, the Island Burial Councils, representatives from OHA and SHPD, and then also representatives from the community. So just the administrative work of convening and organizing that large of a group, as well as I'm sure you all know, a facilitator is actually a pretty specialized role. The OHA participants need to be listening and actively participating, and a facilitator who compiles all the information and prepares the draft report that the members would actually look over, because we have experience. Kamakana and Kai were both here. There was an earlier burial sites working group in 2022. It was a lot of work. So we think the 50,000 allocated there to the working group facilitator is really important. And then there's 30,000 for each year for a contract lobbyist if we need it, which was something we considered this year for some of our high profile issues, but we didn't end up hiring anyone. We were a little bit late in the process, but we have that in our budget moving forward if we need it. Our only equipment, but it's important, is our online resources for both legal research and legislative tracking. And our legislative tracker works for both state legislature as well as County of Honolulu and County of Hawaii bills. County of Maui and Kauai aren't integrated yet, but they should be in the future. And then we can track all of the state and county bills from the same platform. The bulk of the budget, again, is the IBC. Oh, we're still on this one. Sorry, the bulk is for community empowerment forums, which was what I was talking about, is going out in the community. We're looking at twice a year on each of the island, one more of procedural, legislative, and training on how you participate in the legislative process, who are your state and legislators, who are your county representatives, what are the different groups out there. We do that in partnership with other NHOs that are active. And then also funding for more topical trainings, be it ceded lands, be it traditional and customary rights, be it as we build out our ocean policy. We actually have an ocean policy plan from a few years back that talks about, you know, one thing we heard communities want help with is the rulemaking process for community-based fishing management areas, which the first one was in Ha'ena. Now there's also one on Maui, and they're very popular in that they bring power back to the community to regulate resource use, and that's something we could provide expertise. So that is still in development. What for each island would be the most topically relevant type of training, but there's funding again for twice a year on each island. We feel it's important to be in person. It's a different type of relationship building, obviously, than if you have an online forum. And then 13,000 reserved for staff training. That's actually only $1,500 a person. And if you start looking at the cost of attending different conferences, you can go through that money quite quickly. CNHA is something like $500. Conservation Alliance, which we actually have a seat on and haven't been present at, but are supposed to be, that's also $500. There's a Homelands one coming up, $250. So that's something I expect staff to use, and I think it's important because as I was mentioning earlier, our staff really needs to be out in the community, out and active with other Native Hawaiian organizations, engaging, participating. You know, I really want people to develop their expertise to the point where they can actually be on panels as well as participate in the conferences. So that's an important allocation of funds. We have the amounts broken out a little bit funny here, but the 30,000 for community empowerment, 12,000 of that is actually for the paid advertising and voter engagement campaign. So it's just, I'm sorry, it wasn't broken out correctly, but and that's still under development. I know Kapohana has had some ideas, Trustee Galuteria, about how we can, you know, better engage our community to be a voting bloc, that we get the attention and what is the word? Legislative muscularity that we deserve. So that is an important line item as well. And then travel costs, you know, we do have, again, prioritizing in-face meetings with our beneficiaries, in-person participation in conferences where we can build these relationships that are so important to advancing our work. So next slide, on the compliance side, this team is currently led by Kai Markel, who again is online, working with myself, our lead archaeologist, Kamakana Ferreira. We have currently Kaveni Ibaro, who is a compliance specialist on Hawaii Island. And then as mentioned, we're hiring for Kauai and Maui right now. The most significant line item here on overhead costs has been recurring in the budget, but Kai can speak to the imminency of the return of disinterred kupuna. That would be, this line item is for reinterment costs for muslin specifically, and he can speak to that if there's any questions. We have under contracts funding reserved, as I mentioned, under our VI priority and also DHHL homesteader priority. We're looking at areas where homesteading is limited because of water availability. So that would be Anahola and Ho'olehua. So a hydrologist or possibly an engineer person on the Molokai side would be necessary to help investigate where current diversions. The Anahola system is really old. So it's kind of like nobody knows. It could be just up the Mauka system that's no longer in use, but the diversion is still happening. So that's why you need a hydrologist to be able to investigate that. And then on the Molokai side with Ho'olehua, it's a Department of Ag owned system that, you know, I'm sure, Trustee, your chair, you're nodding your head. I mean, homesteaders can't access water. They can't use their farmland because of limited access to water. And so this would be helping DHHL to assess on their behalf, the cost of assuming that system from DOA and making it self-sustaining. So both the diversion and the Kuala Pu'u Reservoir can become kind of a self-sustaining system that then we can help put more water on the land, more homesteaders on the land. So that's that line item. And then again, I've already talked about under programs, the biannual trainings for our island burial councils, costs related to running those, honorariums. I didn't mention that in the community empowerment one, but these are also important because again, we want to be partnering with other organizations, and we always want to respect people's time if they participate in trainings with us, and I think it's important. So that's both on the compliance and the policy community forums that we're envisioning. There'd be honorarium for those of our community members who are also training. And then again, the line item is also here for $1,500 per year for staff training. And travel, I think everyone's familiar that there's costs associated. Well, actually, this does not include the international travel budget. This is just the compliance in-state travel budget, and it includes costs for both our planned IBC training and recruitment, and also if there's inadvertent discoveries. There were several members of the team who went to Kauai twice over the past year to address the inadvertent discovery on a residential property in Naue, and there was community forums that were held in relation to that. So both in the programs for the conferences, quote unquote, that includes costs for up to 3 inadvertent discovery a year, and for staff to actually go neighbor island and hold community forums and kind of have a more organized response to what's going on. So those are the main highlights of the budget, and we welcome your feedback and questions.
Let's begin with Trustee Akina.
Thank you, Lena Alo. With regard to the 7 vacancies that you're trying to fill, does this budget have sufficient funding for the recruitment and retention that is needed? How do you assess that in terms of the amount?
I mean, I know there was funding reserved for potential raises. I think with respect to the managers especially, it's important that we're able to provide competitive salaries. The ocean policy position, it requires someone with some expertise and experience. Openly, we're looking at former NOAA staffers who are being let go because of federal funding cuts, and federal funding or federal agency staff salaries are traditionally pretty good. So I would say that, overall, I'm happy with it. The manager positions are the ones I'm a little concerned about recruitment.
So we're trailing in this budget by about how much, would you say?
I haven't thought about it in that depth. I would say with managers, maybe flexibility of up to $20,000 per position might be good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Galataria.
Oh, thank you. Madam Chair. This a couple of points. Compliance. Yeah, since we're taking such a lead position with the IBC, I would hope we could revisit the statute 60. It's been proven to be too vague, in my opinion, subject to interpretation on many different levels. So if we could either give it to, well, we don't have that robust legal team, but perhaps we might want to look at it, see how we
Yeah.
can tighten it up.
It's definitely part of the working group mandate to look at the statute and the rules as part of looking at, because it's looking at OHA taking over the program and how that might improve it, but how to improve the program overall with respect to borough site management. So that would include the statute and the regulations like you're suggesting.
And institutional knowledge is real important. I just want to point out that in our OHA family, Nanea Lo, right over there, served with me on the Oahu Island Burial Council.
Yes.
So she's got some institutional knowledge that maybe you can glean from. just a talk story with her?
Yes, she's our admin assistant, along with research and evaluation. So she got introduced earlier. I apologize for not introducing you with our team as well. But yes, Nania is helping us and we're happy to have her on
Oh,
board.
that's good. Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate it. In the area of the advocacy, you know, there, obviously, we're gonna increase and improve our game when we get to the next session. Hopefully, the team will be, you know, if not at full strength, at least we got some more on the team.
June 30th is my hiring target for
yeah.
everyone.
I bet. Now, there's been if it's not a seismic shift, it's a shift in the House with leadership, with the removal of Yamashita. And Chris Todd is going to be the lead guy, right, on that side. We're going to make, I think, Trustee Akaka, myself, Trustee Chair Kahele, Chris Todd comes from the Big Island. So it's going to be a, you know, a relationship that we're going to have to feed and embrace as best as we can. So with regard to, this is not budget related. It's more like 30,000 feet related, right? On what we should be doing at the legislature that we haven't been doing already. But there's conversations, I think, not only with the ledge, but with the governor as well. I think we're poised to have some deep conversations with Gov, you know. I'm just saying this just to kind of like make sure that we embrace your needs over here. And if we have to realign, we'll realign. But right now, this is, for you, this is workable.
Once I think we'll be in a much better position next year when we have our team filled out as reflected in the org chart.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, thank you, Chair.
Good. Trustee Akaka.
Mahalo. So regarding our ocean policy, I recall about 3 years ago, we were going throughout the community to get the mana'o.
Yes.
And are we looking at doing that again?
So we, that'll be a conversation when that person comes in and it'll include executive leadership team. But my understanding from the folks who spearheaded that, which was Kealoha, Shane, Kamaile, Big Island folks with Michelle McCoy, who's still here. Kamaile and Michelle are the two who are still here. Is that, you know, there was a lot of mana'o gathered. That's why I was talking about the CBFSAs, because it came up during those meetings. But that it's in draft form. It was worked with research and evaluation to put it in draft form. But the feeling from the staff I just mentioned was that it needed to go out to the community before it's finalized. We need to assess that with ELT if that's necessary or if we can actually adopt it in the form it currently is, because there was a lot of good mana'o gathered from what our community wants to see. And that's one of the data points on why ocean policy is so important. It's come up, you know, it just keeps coming up in the community, the importance of our ocean policy work.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted to ask, how effective has the lobbying contract work been for OHA to advance Hawaiian Native Hawaiian interests?
So we actually didn't get a contract lobbyist this year. We were too late in the system. I know that there have been contract lobbyists in the past. I don't know, since the new administration came on.
Kaka'ako.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if it's the board has more knowledge than the current administration, because it might have been back prior when there was I forget the name of the consulting group, but there was a specific group that was contracted to do lobbying around Kaka'ako Makai.
Was it, did we ever have one?
Okay, yeah. So we didn't have, so we did not
didn't
have
have
a
a-
contract lobbyist this year.
Oh, okay. So we don't have we never.
No, if we were to move forward, we'd do the whole procurement process.
Oh, we did have one way back.
So we did actually put out a notice for services in December, and we emailed it to target groups, but we did not get any response. We got one response, but the vendor actually wasn't up to date on their tax, so they didn't meet the qualifications, and then we didn't get any other responses. And we
Okay.
put it out twice.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, I'm hoping Kai can join us for this part of my thank you. Yes, but if you could share with us on some of the ninau I have on this. So, aloha Kai.
Aloha, aloha,
Aloha.
Chair, Vice Chair, and trustees.
Aloha.
Aloha.
I wanted to kind of have you share on some of the work that you had previous done some years ago in your position as the Director of Native Rights, Land and Culture, and specifically where we're at currently and where we're at then. How can we get up to speed?
So thank you. Question. So I was Director of Native Rights, Land and Culture until the first big reorg with Clyde Namuo, Administrator, and Kamana Opono taking over. And that was around 2010, 2012. I had up to 17 staff, Native Rights, Land and Culture, and we were involved in litigation with Kaloa and Kauai. We initiated the striker litigation against the U.S. Army over Kahuku, Bahakaloa, and Schofield. That the land division broke off. We did all the ledge review, and then that broke off into policy in the big reorg around 2012, and then we retained, basically the culture. We retained all the environmental review. So our charge when we became compliance enforcement, I've had about 7 core staff traditionally, and one was a dedicated AA, and that to me was the most important position, because she kept everything working, running. And she was actually doing reviews herself. And then through attrition,
Kalame, can you share with us what a dedicated AA is and what that specific position has done?
So dedicated AA was for Native Rights, Land and Culture, and it retained that AA into compliance enforcement all the way up until 2021, the reorg, where all the AAs were centralized, and that really has not worked for us at all. And having that person help the manager function, all the scheduling, all the day-to-day, helping return calls, all that stuff was just critical, as well as helping the rest of the team. And she even helped Papanomokokea when it broke off, because that manager, Killer Lindsay, didn't even have an AA. So she ended up helping all his procurement, POs, and getting all the stuff for him. But anyway, so that was just a critical position that we lost in 2021. And our charge is still the same. It's a core function of OHA's responsibilities under statute and the Constitution. And that is to assess the practices of other agencies as they may, of course, adversely impact our beneficiary base. So we cover, believe it or not, we still cover Native rights, we cover land, we cover culture, we cover health, we cover housing, human services, education, governance, and economic development. We're not limited to what you hear mostly about is environmental review, because it's such a huge Juliana, and the historic preservation review. And of course, Iwi Kupuna. Iwi is our most cherished possession, right? Over the decades, the one issue I've seen people come to the board table time and time again is about the Iwi. It's the only issue that we have litigation, we have contested cases, we have mass protests, we have arrests, so it is a very top issue that we need to address, but we cover the whole gamut. And we have, there was litigation in the 90s over the Department of Public Safety and our pahao and the prisons being shipped off and not having any access to Hawaiian cultural programs. They could, you could see a Buddhist priest, you could see a Christian minister, but there was no Hawaiian religion, they said. So we actually helped it was settled, and we helped formulate the Native Hawaiian Church with Kaho'oleo Patterson, and got the Makahiki into Halava for the first time in 2012. And we've been continuing that effort every year and expanded back to Waiava, and we're trying to support Saharo now. That's litigation that needs to be enforced, and that's one way of enforcing it. We've been involved with the military since I started in 2004. The Department of Defense had to develop a Native Hawaiian consultation policy. We had to go out with them, the tribal liaisons, go around the islands. It took about 4 years to get it finally done. They actually updated at a 10-year interval around 2018. A part of that was also participating as instructors in the Department of Defense Native Hawaiian Consultation Communication course. And we've been doing that for 15 years at least now.
And we're not currently doing that now since
No,
2020.
it kind of broke off. I mean, I can't function as a instructor anymore effectively. And the last one we did might have been 18, or actually no, maybe 23, 22. Kind of would remember. But Dr. Gregor, Dr. David Singh, we've been, and this is there's an executive course which is high level. It's base commanders, garrison generals, and then we do the terminal people next to. The last one notable one we did was up at Fort Shafter, actually base Pearl Harbor Hickam, just like maybe a year. But the one we did at Army headquarters at Fort Shafter, the tribal liaison presented OHA with the American flag that had flown over the Pentagon in, what was it, March of that year? And then the following month, they presented that for all of our work with the military, and that was Trump's Pentagon. So we have a relationship with the military. We also sued the military in 1996, the Army, and I had to oversee all that litigation. It went on for 2.5 years, about 2 years before it settled because of the political pressure. And then another 10 years to get the settlement implemented and the surveys and all that work. And our staff had to be trained in UXO, radiation, first aid, everything you could think of, and wear Kevlar helmets and stuff to go out there because they could get blown up. So all of that military connection is kind of like just dissipated. So the 2021 reorg really decimated advocacy, and I lost a lot of my good staff. The most important thing.
Go ahead, we got to wrap it up in this.
Oh, so sorry. So the most important thing I could share is that you got to attract staff, number one, and you have to retain staff. There has to be an environment that is conducive, that has Hawaiian values. I've read our Hawaiian values for 20 years. Kako, aloha, kulia, malama, and the actions are people see and they don't feel. And that's the big issue with OHA. And it's not insurmountable, but we all need to work on it. I just thought really quickly, we talk about Kapohana. Ever since the name was changed to Kapohana, we hear a lot of Kapohana. Kapohana, Kapohana. Kapo is a sorcery goddess of fertility and black magic, and it's the work of Kapo. That's not what we want to. Ayakamane loko kuhualelo. There's power in the words. We got to be mindful of that. And it's not Kapo, the darkness, the hidden secrecy work. It's Kapohana. So we all got to try our best to help each other and educate. And that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I would like to, Chair Kahele had actually asked for a presentation on compliance, what we actually do. And I think a lot of people don't know still. So I would love that opportunity at some point before I leave at the end of the year, to at least set that benchmark, that these are things that we need to build upon and not toss out. Because our beneficiaries are wondering, where's OHA? What happened to OHA at the prisons? So anyway, that's all.
Thank you. We have to move on to the budget. Thank you so much, Kai.
Sorry.
No, no, it's okay.
Regarding the budget, I have a question regarding onboarding and military training as well as EV and how that works hand in hand with the military as well.
In the budget.
Yes, in the
Okay.
budget, as that's listed.
How much is
under-
this? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, so regarding onboarding for the military, is that part of something that we budget or is that out of something else? And is it where it's just the heads of the military or all those that are coming on are trained
So
to
the,
serve?
yeah, sorry if I can answer, Chair. The Department of Defense liaison to the Secretary of the Army, actually Secretary of Defense.
What
They
page is
oversee
on
the
and what line
training.
item are we looking at?
There's no
page?
budget. There's no budget for it. We don't pay for that one. It's a matter of having competent staff and available staff to help with those trainings, but we don't pay for those. So that's all. Thank you.
And then
Thanks.
my next question is specifically regarding the muslin for the mokapu. It's mentioned the 20-some thousand costs on that. Can I ask where we source that?
Grace helped me. She called around several different dry goods stores locally and said how much for a bolt of muslin, and then how much for 30 bolts of muslin, how much for 50 bolts of muslin. And then those prices gave us an estimate. We used to have $50,000 in our budget for that item, but we've got it down to about 30, realistically figuring out how much it's going to take to wrap close to 3,000 kupuna, and OHA has been a claimant on this for 25 years. Some of the kupuna have been out for over 100 years. So this is a priority that every year we're closer now. We think we're going to actually have the rebarrel vault built probably by the beginning of next year. So we may be able to wrap them all at the end of this year before I depart. So
one of the thoughts I had was regarding that, because I feel it's very important. I was wondering, is this something that we could do in-house throughout OHA, it being Pilina building and so forth, with kapa and so forth, but maybe muslin would be more appropriate. I would lend on your expertise on that. But the other part as well is the mokapu, the 3,000 that is mentioned here. Is that Oahu? Is that Maui? Is that Molokai? Or is it all of the above?
all from Mokapu Peninsula. So Marine Corps Base, Hawaii.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Oh, sorry, all from Mokapu Peninsula at Marine Corps Base, Hawaii, all from there.
Oahu.
Yes.
Thank you. That
All right.
was specifically mentioned in a Waimanalo neighborhood board meeting. I think Kuike was mentioning that. And I was asking how the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, where we were at with that, and if we can collaborate on that. So it sounds like we're already on top of that. Thank
Okay,
you.
all right, thank you so much. And anything else before we adjourn? Any other questions? All right, we are done. Are we not done? Why? What happened? Oh, no, I'm gonna go to that. Yeah, I know. I'm just saying we're done with the last presenter. Okay, so thank you so much. If there's anything else, Paul?
No,
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yes, please give them a round of applause. What was that? Okay. Yes. No, yeah. Or can I have a motion to adjourn? All right, can I have a second? Second, moved by trustee Souza, seconded by trustee Galataria. Roll call, please.
Trustee Ahuna excused. Trustee Akaka. Motion to adjourn. Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Trustee Galutaria.
Aye.
Trustee Kahele.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Excused. Trustee Souza.
Aye.
Vice Chair Wahe'e. Excused. And Chair Lapa.
Aye.
Quorum.
All right, thank you. Mahalo, everyone. Thank you so much. And so I'm going to share this with you folks. We do have, as our appreciation for all your support, your presentations this past week for our presenters today, please adjourn to our board suite because we have a special luncheon for you folks. And then the big surprise of all, it's not a surprise because I hear everybody talking about it. And one